in a Western world that people comes and discount your minimum guarantee deals or your sales deal and fund you the money to start the project. In the same breath, we also have to accept the fact that the environment is mature, that a buyer who signs a contract does not vanish on one day before the release of the content. So as an industry, we also have to we have to also create a lot of improvement in the overall sector and bring confidence among the guys who are putting in money, whether it's a corporate or it's a banker or somebody, that your contracts are binding. Not only contracts are binding, if somebody defaults on the contract within a reasonable time frame, you get a resolution of the same. So then that is a time when you will get a trust or a faith on the overall situation. So I won't take much time. So broadly, I think I tried to explain. I think Ameet has given the outline of the overall thing. The broadly 2 or 3 points which I want to impress upon, that whether it is a content, whether the content is a film, television, animation, or games, same situation in games, that we have console gaming industry companies, we have mobile gaming companies, same situation. When you create a content, in India's situation, there is hardly anyone who will come and fund unless there is a balance sheet funding or your shareholder is going to fund. Now, so apart from that, the main core issue is, of course, that whatever you are pitching in, you have to have a confidence that you are giving a return to your investor, whether it is a shareholder or the debtor or your debt market or in whatever form. The environment has to mature. Now, whose responsibility? I think it is a combined responsibility. It is the responsibility of the industry, of the people like us who are in the industry, that we have to bring that amount of faith and trust in our transactions. We have to ensure that people don't back out of the transactions. It is a responsibility of the regulatories that if people backs out, you have to ensure that you get a quick resolution within a time frame. It is a responsibility of the government or the ministries that they create an overall environment conducive for more investment. Because there is no lack of talent or no lack of resource in this country. But unfortunately, lots needs to happen. I mean, we are celebrating 100 years this year, but lots needs to happen. If I compare this with, I mean, why go to Western world? Even if you compare with markets like China, Japan, Taiwan, in terms of regulation, in terms of environment, in terms of tax credit, in terms of incentives, in terms of grants, there is a fabulous, I mean, I don't think there is any comparison. India is such a large country, there is nothing happening to promote tourism from that perspective. You go to any other country, today Switzerland becomes Switzerland because of late Yash Chopra. Today Europe's every single city we are aware, when you see in our film, when you see on the screens, how many cities or how many spots, we are aware of the entire country. So there is not much happening. So definitely it's a large country, so lot depends from everybody. There is no blame game, but I think all of us have to work in a combined manner and work towards bringing us the result. Thanks.
Thanks, Shibasish. Thanks, Shibasish. I think you've highlighted that all the stakeholders really need to take a closer look and look at transparency, and also you've also hinted on, apart from the financing and the discipline that is there, we've also tried to touch upon, in fact, in one of the earlier sessions, actually I only mentioned about it, that we've tried to capture some parts of film tourism in our findings that we released in the knowledge report earlier. Moving from films and from what Ameet and Shibasish shared with us, I'd like to now request Mr. Bawa to share with us some of his experience with the Network 18 group, with Viacom, and you know, if you can just share with us how that experience has been and how finance and connecting the dots has been a key role for you.
Well, the television is a slightly different kettle of fish as compared to films. We've come a long way in financing television, but we still have a long way to go. I still remember when I started, you know, when I joined this company way back, it was a small setup at that time. I made the round of banks, and I made the round of banks, and I made the round of banks, and no one was even willing to talk to me. No one. No, they didn't understand the business, they didn't understand the industry, and the mindset that working capital, you know, financing can only be raw materials and inventories, which we didn't have, obviously, the industry doesn't have. And that mindset is prevalent even today. You go for a working capital finance facility to any bank, first thing they ask is inventory. They don't understand intangibles, they don't understand libraries, they don't understand programming, nothing. They talk of receivables, inventory, which is not there. It is non-existent. So then you come up, different kind of structures which are made, and, we go against receivables, and, financing only receivables is again a bit of a problem. So, and more than that, I think the risk profile of the industry is still perceived to be very, very low. I'm not talking of specific individual companies, I'm talking of industry per se. The risk profile of the industry is low. Therefore, most banks don't want to have a very high exposure to the industry as such, which is a major, major problem as far as financing of the working capital financing of the industry is concerned. No bank is willing to give me money for programming. If I outsource the program to a third party, the content to a third party, they're willing to finance the third party against bills raised on me, and which can be discounted. But banks are not willing to finance me directly. It's a very peculiar situation. Karan raised the issue of, how Network 18 has grown. We've grown, we started as a production house. We used to do programs for, serials actually, entertainment programs for the Sonys and the Z's and the rest of them. We also used to do business capsules. Then we decided to get into business news in a bigger way. We approached CNBC at that time ABN actually, before CNBC. No one perceived the business news market, as any market. It can never work. So financing that itself was a problem, because no one was very sure on how a business news would work in India. I mean, India was a country of Chitrahars and, the Mahabharats. And, but we were, quite confident, okay, wait, this is the way to go forward. And, that's how we did. At the time we got some private funding. Banks were still not willing to come in. So we got private funding, paid high interest rates, but we are quite sure and quite confident that things will work out. And things have worked out. Government regulations have kept changing all the while, and because of the changes in government regulation, lots of issues kept cropping up, a lot of realignments, a lot of restructurings had to be done, so that, we are always in compliance with the regulations. And one of the issues which we faced while we were, growing, which we face even today for that matter, is the cap on, FDI in different sectors of media. We are in news, we are in entertainment, we are in internet, we are, all over, and they all have different caps. So because they have different caps, they can't be housed in the same company. So you have to structure things so that, the ventures happen in different companies, the news happen in different companies. And then accordingly, each company had to raise its own finances, which again was a bit of a problem, because there was the regulator came up with a provision that in news broadcasting, there has to be a dominant shareholder holding 51%. Now that's okay with a promoter with, deep pockets, so you need money to grow. You can invest more because the promoter's got the money. But if I have to grow and the promoter has to put in 51% every time I try to raise some capital, it's a strict no where the promoter doesn't have deep pockets, which was another problem which we faced. As a result of which, most of our growth got funded from debt, which is not always the best thing to do, but this is what happened, because you could not expand the equity base. And most of the financing happened through debt. Debt also, like I explained to you, the risk profile of the industry is pretty low. So the debt was again raised at pretty high cost. Offering security for the debt was another major issue which we have. You don't have any tangible security to offer. There's no land, there's no building. So these are various issues we faced while we were growing. Today we have reached a stage, when everybody knows us, instead of we running to the banks come to us. So the profile, but I'm talking about the industry as a whole. I think each one of them is facing a major problem in getting funding done. I'm not talking of the equity part of the funding, private equity, my colleague will speak on. But from a pure debt perspective, I'm sure, things are changing. More and more banks are now willing to look at various kinds of structures where, working capital facility can be given to television, not the content companies, but television broadcasters. And hopefully going forward, things will be much better and rosier. Karan, anything else?
I think, no, thanks, Mr. Bawa, but I think the outlook and the climate has been much more, optimistic now. Of course, you explained from the very early days. I think a lot has evolved, and I think definitely as one of the lenders and institutions in that space, the bank, Yes Bank, definitely looks at this industry wherever we can act as a catalyst to see that companies in various verticals of the media and entertainment chain, among other sectors as well, can reach their fullest growth potential. Dave, maybe we can get some thoughts and highlights from you on the precious equity piece, where either you come in as an equity partner or equity players like yourself also come in sometimes as strategic partners. So maybe you can share with us some of your experiences and where do you feel are opportunities in this Indian media and entertainment sector?
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversations so far has been about financing content production. In many ways, where we come in as venture capital, early stage investors is financing technology-oriented companies that are just starting out. And as venture capital, we get involved with distribution businesses, digital distribution more than physical. So we would be involved in companies that distribute film or music or TV over the internet or on mobile devices. We are investors in a company called Dhingana, which is one of the leading internet music streaming services in India. And I think the only thoughts I'll leave you with is that, number one, it's going to be a large audience over the next few years. Today, about 75 million people are on mobile internet in India, 125 million on the internet. And I think in 5 to 7 years, you could easily see half of the mobile user base in India interacting through data. So 400-500 million people, 40-50 crores of people. And you could easily see big companies being built that distribute music or video or games on that. And we think that's the growth opportunity here, from 75 million today to 500 million over the next 5 to 10 years. And the issues that stand in the way right now, some of them that TRAI has cleared up in the last year, is a lot of spam in mobile. We've seen that cleaned up, and I think that means a lot of the old mobile VAS companies will go away over the next couple of years. Companies like OnMobile and IMI Mobile. I think what we're going to see is a lot of direct-to-consumer models come out over the next few years. I think what stands in the way is two things. Consumer payment models. Today, mobile operators take 60 to 70% rev share from distributors and content providers, and I think that number is going down pretty fast. Vodafone's taking just 30% today, for example. And we're going to see payment aggregators come up and carrier billing come in through Google Play and the Apple Store. So that's going to be good for the content industry. And I think the second thing standing in the way is devices and broadband connectivity over wireless and wireline, and perhaps with the Reliance 4G, always is promised in a year's time. We'll see with companies like that, hopefully coming with fast broadband at lower cost, we can see the 75 million mobile internet user base rise to 400-500 million. So I think the real growth in media and entertainment is, I think, in those areas over the next few years. Financing is not that easily available in that area right now. I think a few companies like Dhingana have been funded, but not a whole lot. But globally, you see media mobile media and internet media businesses doing very well. I mean, you look at YouTube, you look at Twitter, you look at Facebook, all media businesses in one sense. I founded a company called SlideShare, which is a media business distributing PowerPoint as content. The content production cost was zero and got bought for $120 million by LinkedIn last year. So there's a lot happening in zero cost production and zero cost distribution that is going to upend a lot of what's happening, even in India. Now, I know it's early in India. We talked about, sub 5% revenue share for digital, but I think that number can go up pretty substantially over the next few years. So for us, we finance entrepreneurs are looking at new businesses in distribution of content and production of zero cost production content. So if there's anybody in the crowd or out there who would like to approach us for that, would love to have that conversation.
No, thanks, Dave. Yeah, Ameet, please.
Sorry. I think, Dave, you made a very good point because the context of discussion is shifted to platform and distribution versus really content. From a private equity perspective and a player, I think it might be useful for most of us here to understand. You said it's entrepreneurial investment, so you invest in an idea, you invest in an entrepreneur, you invest in the vision or the business, so to speak. What are the do's and don'ts that you would like to sort of legislate or to people when a private equity investor actually looks at an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference in private equity and venture capital.
Sorry,
so
yeah.
I can't represent private equity as much.
Right.
So we're not looking at big, cash flow oriented companies. We're looking at companies that have zero revenue.
That's correct. So
So
you're
or
looking
sub 5 crore revenue and investing
right.
in those to grow to 500 crores over the next
Right.
decade.
So-
So it's different.
So what would a venture capitalist, sorry, again, from a pure VC perspective,
Yeah.
what is it that you would look at if there is a crowd of 10 people, right? Again, the challenges for digitization is a phenomenon that's only happening now. 4G is a distance away. So the businesses that you see in the M&E space, what are those businesses? What I understood from you is it's more service based, right? So you would look at opportunities which are more service oriented and deliver platforms.
Yeah, internet or mobile services.
That's correct.
Not professional services or consulting.
No, I
services.
understand that.
Yeah.
I would ask
Yeah,
you one thing
so just to
otherwise.
answer your question, we look at entrepreneurs have a vision to disrupt
Correct.
and technology platforms that can get to hundreds of millions of people. And then a market where somebody is spending money. Advertisers, consumers, somebody else is spending money. So there are such markets in India, they're fragmented and they're coming together over time. But
So you
it's
see the
early.
convergence opportunity in India as a huge opportunity for VCs to look at, because there is convergence. You have the area, so you have telecom, you have broadcasting, and you have content aggregation in that sense.
Yeah.
So we also believe that the next opportunity really is in convergence.
Yeah.
And the regulatory player there is going
The
to
disruptive technologies of
Yeah,
how,
that's correct.
businesses are kind of, falling from their common ground. But I just thought, thanks for giving us that perspective. I just thought, let's take advantage of Dr. Gupta here and Mr. Bawa here. And I just thought that, with the TRAI and some of the very bold initiatives that you all are taking and some of the concerns that the broadcasters have been highlighting and we've been reading about last few days, we thought that why not use a platform like this, Mr. Bawa, to share some of your, perhaps experiences on what you feel with TRAI, what are the areas where, as, representation of broadcasters, I mean, we don't have anyone from IBF perhaps here, but, with some of, whether it's the 12 minutes that you all were talking about and the digitization rollout. So if, I would like if maybe we can have a dialogue between you all too, and how these concerns can be addressed for the betterment and the growth of the industry.
Actually, I just want to say that as far as the digitization is concerned, broadcasters are very happy.
Correct. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I
No doubt
think
about that.
there is
that's a
absolutely,
remarkable thing,
there is absolutely no doubt about it, and I think that digitization as a whole is, it has led to transparency.
Oh, yeah.
So
I
as
think-
far as the digitization is concerned, I don't think there is any concern at all. In fact, we think both the government and the regulators are doing a great job on it. Yeah.
Since he ended with a rosy picture saying that it's all going to be good, I think that he's quite happy, Mr. Bawa, even about the other aspects of the regulation which
No,
have
some of the
come
aspects we
into-
are not very happy about. But, you know,
No, I'm sure that's-
I raised the issue of this 51% dominant shareholding, you know, which, you know, everybody complies with obviously, but, you know, it did cause us problems, you know, for funding. What is the, you know, rationale behind it?
I think you are quite aware that whatever has been done by the TRA has been with a lot of consultation process.
Yeah.
See, there has been a pre-consultation, there has been a consultation proper, and the whole thing has been put. So, I mean, I don't think that regulator as such.
Although this
anytime-
happened before TRA came
No,
into the picture.
so that's the
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
I mean, in case there is any kind of an issue, then I suppose we can always have a relook at
Yeah.
it, because if it's question of funding and getting the finances, so if there is a, you know, issue about it, we can always have a look at it through a proper consultation.
I think from a regulator perspective, and not to shield, because cross shareholding is a challenge. I think the regulator still perceives, and pardon me if I'm saying that news content, broadcasting are sensitive in that sense. So I think that's where the context of cross shareholding comes in.
ownership, yeah,
And that's
media
perhaps the context. But having said which, I think the FDI regime, I remember that when we started lawyering, there used to be an old Annexure 4 which restricted FDI as a regime. Today that Annexure 4 is diluted. So therefore, you know, you look at you know,
Yeah, that's
FDI,
substantially diluted, but not for news.
that's correct. So I think there is
I
a
think these are
sensitivity around
evolving,
that. That's
yeah,
right.
exactly, these are all evolving.
Karan,
Yeah,
I'll
they're
just-
all
since
evolving
Madam-
and,
Madam is there, just the context on 2 or 3 things in terms, because you have ASSOCHAM as a forum. One is, India is, again, on the content side, is a little away in this whole co-production treaties.
Yes.
We've been far and beyond that. We talked about subsidy, we talked about status, we talked about you know, shooting locations and all of that. But the movement on co-production funding has been rather slow.
Very
And we don't quite understand why, because cinema is very large. We are just not large in Bollywood cinema. The regional cinema itself is very large. And I think that needs to be encouraged. That's one. Second, ma'am, is in terms of TRA as a regulatory authority, I think it does a remarkable job. We only hope that the TV starts working sooner than later. So that's the second part. I think the larger issue is, you know, in context of how the regulatory authorities perceive the industry. I think that mindset, I believe, will change over a period of time, because for the industry still is perceived from the regulators, whether you look at the INB, whether you look at tourism, as an industry that only does cinema or does so and so forth. But the industry actually generates a lot of employment. And I think somewhere, if we are fortunate, the industry has a status as an industry. But from a regulated perspective, do you feel that there is a perception change, or somewhere there is still that thing that this is a sector which is, should it not be treated like an IT sector, or should it not be treated like infrastructure in any form and manner?
No, if you sort of remember I mean, when I started, my first sentence was that the entertainment and media industry broadly consists of 4 segments.
Yeah.
Television, I started with that because the kind of growth which has happened. Print, radio and other media. Then we included all the other one like internet access, what Sarkar was talking about, you know, films. We put films at a much, so I don't think that the regulator perceives at all in that manner. Not at all.
Thanks so much. Are there any questions from the audience to any of, yes? Can we have them? Yeah, you can just,
and it was, you know, co-produced by Red Chillies and, you know, Big. Similarly, if you see any Dharma production, there would be a Viacom co-producing it. So can you just demystify? So, you know, you went through all the initial slides which you had to kind of rush through. So in these kind of co-productions, what happens? The producer who's producing the content like Dharma would come and go to a production house, to one of these financiers and say, hey, pay me X 60 crores and the content is yours. What's the basic co-production that we see today in most of Bollywood movies?
Shibasish will give you more details, but I'll tell you the landscape. You see, co-productions are of several types. One is where somebody comes in a venture purely for creativity. So they bring in a product and say that, all right, we need 100% funding. That could be also one kind of co-production where there is a financer. The financer takes financial risk, and the project is put together by the producer. The financer evaluates the investment on the basis of the pedigree of the producer, the director, and the talent, and then recoups money from exploitation and waterfall, which is pre-sales and post-sales. The other is there are co-productions where ultimately even the producer has invested some money, and again, he's looking for some part of funding. The third is conceptually now this is what's happening increasingly, where the film is produced by the producer, and there is a concept of sale and purchase. So I sell a film as a pre-sale, under production or even otherwise, at a price. So if my cost price is X, I sell it at Y. That is also one opportunity. And then the financer, financing and distribution in some ways also goes hand in hand. So then the distribution takes an opportunity and says, all right, that's my arbitrage and see what I can do on sale. So these are the kind of deals. Shibasish will give you more details on the specific films. But this is what's happening in reality. The issue really is, from a financial perspective, there is a lot of, risk and opportunity that they take when they look at a project, because you don't know whether the film is going to make money or not. So you really have to go by a lot of, gut and instinct and see how you can deliver. So you had some questions.
And just another piece was for Dave. If you really see, we talk about 500, 600, 700 million mobile screens and, at least 50 million smartphones that would be here by the end of this year. So where do we see the monetization of content or anything on the mobile screen? And Dave, as you said, you've been funding small startups and you've seen what's happened in the West. So where do you see something similar happening to a country like India, which has so much rich content being made?
Today there's about 2,500, about 400 to 500 million dollars being spent on internet digital advertising. About 10% of that comes to mobile for various things, whether it's news, whether it's music or movies or whatever. So that's one sort of revenue stream that will continue to grow over time. It's a very small proportion of total advertising in India, but that proportion will grow as it has grown in other countries. The second method is through consumer pay models. And we're seeing the beginnings of that where people are paying for apps on the App Store. We're seeing for people paying for subscriptions, people paying for LinkedIn on mobile in India. We see a lot of consumer pay models starting to come in, still early. But I think the thing that will change that is if Google, Android is going to be the main mobile platform, that's our bet, and it is today. And if Google Play, the App Store on those Android phones, enables carrier billing with 70% rev share to developers, we'll see all the models develop over the next few years that have happened in the West, whether it's in-app purchases, whether it's apps being purchased overall, whether it's other types of consumer pay models, subscriptions through apps, those sorts of things. I think that'll happen. We've seen the beginnings of that with Nokia's OV Store, which has a 70% rev share to developers, and that's doing reasonably well. So those are the two models. The consumer pay model has to emerge right now. Right now, a lot of the mobile VAS companies have to go through carriers to collect money, and that's why they have to give up most of the economics. That's why that industry has been stunted, and is going to wither away as far as I can tell. But this consumer pay is coming into play. There's companies like CubeCell, which is a carrier billing aggregator. I know Google is is in commercial negotiations with the carriers here in India to enable the carrier billing. So in the next 6 to 12 months, I expect some of that to start coming in, and that is going to be the thing that takes off. The number one category for mobile payment is gaming. People pay for games. That's 70% of App Store revenue, and I think that category can expand in India.
Thanks, Dave.
Karan, this is a question specifically for you, and any other panel member may want to share your thoughts. Mr. Bawa and some others mentioned that access to bank financing was a challenge when they started, and it still continues to be a challenge for them. At the same time, he did mention that he was funded by banks at high interest rates. Now, tell me as a banker, what kind of non-collateral fundings would you look at? Mr. Bawa did touch on content libraries and things like that, and I understand HMV probably did a transaction 15, 18 years ago before it became Saregama and had stronger financial success. Some kind of a securitization on your music libraries. So, would you look at things like that, or eventually, like let's say for gaming, where gaming properties may have higher longevity than music content or film content, or even pure subscription models where somebody has a monthly revenue? Would you look at pure cash flow funding for these kind of companies?
I think,
It's a hypothetical question, but would you do something?
no, sure. Maybe I might not pinpoint on, you've asked from IP securitization to various cash flows across various, from the content side or subscription. No, sure. So there are structured financing options that could be deliberated on depending on which sector and, which specific cash flows are you citing over here. So these options are definitely. For IP, we have done a few, yes. Yeah, we can discuss that offline.
Let me just add to this. When we were having a problem, on our, providing the necessary security and creating the drawing power, as they call it, which we never had, we did talk to the bank on funding cash flows. This is our projected cash flow, and whether it's possible to fund the deficit in the cash flow rather than going on a DP calculation basis. And after a lot of persuasion, we did do it. We had this kind of a facility for almost 2 years, and then we moved on. But yes, it is possible, banks do it, but it's not something they do very often. Sorry, I didn't get you. Yeah, for Basel III they'll be different, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I think the session, we've got one more session and there's a time deadline, so if you don't mind, we can take that question from you offline, and we can take this moment to, just, if you don't mind, we'll take it offline. And would like to take a moment to thank everyone on the panel here, including Dr. Gupta.
Specific only, no question. See, I am Professor B.S. Agarwal from Delhi University. We are talking a lot of funding, but nobody can get easily funds from the banks. If they want to give funds, they want collateral security even for a small amount. How can a person who is asking for a loan provide you collateral security? So this is something very complicated. I don't want any loan from any bank. I don't take. But why don't you give up with this? If you give a small amount in any area of funding, you are asking all the time collateral security. Person cannot provide. Second question is about IT, that they want to promote IT, it's a question to Vijayalakshmy, and they withdraw the scheme, they open and they withdraw before somebody applies, you close it. So if you keep for some period, at least 1 or 2 years or 3 years, because this takes a long process, you apply to get the map approved, to get the company registered. So keep option at least of IT sector. I talked to Mr. Kapil Sibal, and Ranjan is with you, I think Ranjan Khanna is working with you.
He is actually Mr. Kapil Sibal's PS. He is in the secretariat of
Yes, I met
MOC
him.
himself. Yeah.
So you just bring the scheme and then you just withdraw. Keep it for some time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and any more we'll take it offline only. So we thank our speakers, we thank the session chair, and a special thanks to Madam Vijayalakshmy. We would like to express our thanks by presenting the memento and would request Karan to kindly present the memento expressing thanks on behalf of ASSOCHAM, thanking you, ma'am. Thank you. So we still have the last session to go. Would like to request all the panelists and the session chair to kindly join us. This is on new media, where we look into the mobile, the internet being used as a tool for communication, for expressions. looking into e-commerce, payments, and social networking, blogging. With the digitization, this space is going to be definitely expanding further. So the growth drivers of new media and the experts sharing their information and knowledge. Inviting Mr. Ganesh Sankara, the co-founder and COO of Prime Focus Technologies, the session moderator. Mr. Rajesh Patil, Chief Evangelist, Creative Solutions, Adobe India. Mr. Viraj Malik, CEO and Managing Director of PK Online Ventures. Mr. Ashish Sehgal, the founder, Ace Genesis Technologies, and Mr. Pandurang Naik, the Vice President and Business Head of BoxTV.com. Would like to request our panelists and the session moderator to kindly join. We are just changing the nameplate, but we have a certain restriction on the hall also, the availability of the hall. So we will have to slightly speed up this session.
I'm going to take 15 minutes. I have a flight to catch. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many interested people are.
Yeah, there are very few people. For emerging technologies, nobody's there. It's a sad situation. The dinosaurs have gone.
It's an idea. I'm going to start announcing, saying that I flew all the way from Bangalore and I have a flight to catch in another hour, so I'll probably get started. My panelists said that for such a emerging technology, people are emerging out of the room, so it's a very sad state, but about 5 years back when I founded this company, the real reason why we started was we said nobody is paying attention to new media, and we said we will start a company and we will help broadcasters pay attention to new media, but things doesn't seem to have changed quite a lot. But I have 15 minutes and I really stayed back because many of my friends are over here and they've been my customers, they've been good friends. So when my customer stays, I got to stay. I'll start with, I did have a presentation, but I'll leave it for that. But I'll start with Pandurang Naik. From Box TV perspective, one of the bigger challenges that we have spoken in the past as well has been, is new media all about, having the same content. I want that content on the TV. I'm walking out. I need it on my iPad. I need it on my mobile device. Or is it going to be different? Are we going to see anything new, really in new media, where it's not really content made for broadcast, but content made for the new media platform? So that's one question that I have. And really the second question is, for all the attention that's there in the broadcasters, there have always been small departments inside new media, but never really coming out and, doing things, doing alternate or differentiating experiences for new media. So I'll leave